Okay, so I've done a bit of modelling on the interior, but now I want to put in the windows and start to get a better idea of how this space is really going to look. So we'll just have a look in the view I've got here in Street View, and we'll get a better view maybe of that window there. So this is the window we're trying to make. So do you know what sort of window that is, or what it's called? What the window construction? When you have the two sashes up and down, double hung, ring any bells?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that's a doubly hung or double hung window. And so at the top there you've got a fan light, or a highlight sometimes called, that opens. Probably would have opened out originally, but it's got bars across, so it wouldn't open at all. So we'll just do that as a fixed window. But the main thing is these two sash panels that obviously slide up and down. So going into Revit, that window needs to fit in between these two piers here. And I'm going to measure that just with the measuring tool in Revit so you can see the size. And you can see it's, funny number, 2897.9. And it does fit pretty snugly up against those piers, so I want to get it pretty close to that measurement. But also I've got the AutoCAD file open there, which I can use then to measure off the PDF that I've inserted, and there I'm going to measure the height. So we're just going to go to the top of the window frame. I'm going to ignore that arched lintel for now, and we'll say it's 2344. So we've got those two numbers to work with. I'm going to round that off and say 2350. And then in Revit, 2897, I might round off to 2900. Just going to measure the next panel and see what we have there. So there you can see that's 2980. So I can always move that pier if I need to and make those even. Remember, that one doesn't have a window on the lower level anyway. Okay, so try to remember those numbers. And now I'm going to go and make a new family. So on the main menu, going to New, and then Family. Might save the project this time. And then one of the best templates you have in Revit, metric window. So the others aren't really as useful. Metric window with trim, I don't find it was all that useful. The trim usually you don't show on Australian windows anyway, so just metric window is normally the one you want. And you'll see that gives you a wall with an opening already set up. So the wall won't come in when you load your window in, only what you put into that opening. So into the 3D view there, I can see the opening, and so a good approach there is to set the size. If you know you have a certain size to work with, set that before you start modelling. And so remember, to get to your properties, you've got that Family Types button. And so I know the width, 2900. Apply, and the size has changed. Now in AutoCAD, I'm just going to remind myself, the height was, that's what we're going to say, 2350. Okay, apply, and you can see there it's gone outside the wall. That's not a problem. Notice we can now see what is creating that opening. You might think it's a void, and you can if you want to use voids, but here they've got this special thing that's set up in families like Windows. It's called an opening, and so it's a special thing that's used to make holes for things like Windows. So it's actually a physical object. You can select it and you can see there that's an opening. So I'm going to leave that there, and I'm just going to select the wall, and you can see there it's just like any other wall. You can set a height by typing in properties. I'm going to make that, just go 5,000. Okay, you can always just drag it at the top as well. So that's a good starting point to then do some modelling, but I also want to get the sill height. So Here, unfortunately, we don't have any windows on the lower level, but we should be able to measure the sill on the drawing we have here for the upper level windows at least. So that's 900, that's pretty typical. And let's just have a look at Street View. And so you know about counting bricks. Okay. If you have a photo where you can see bricks, you can try counting them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, let's say 10 courses. And so do you know how high a course is? 80, close, yeah. Yeah, not close, not far off 80, it's 86 or 85, but 80, close to 86. So that's with mortar. And so 86, we'll say, times 10, 860. So that's close enough to 900. So we'll say 900 that I measured in AutoCAD, that sounds like a good height. Because obviously, you know, the height here would change a little bit with the footpath changing as well. But that's a good tip. When you see something with bricks, bricks are usually a standard height, and you can use those as a measuring rod. So, back into family types, and oops, I just turned properties off, I don't want that. So back to family types, and I'm going to put in a default sill height of 900. Now, let's look at the exterior view there. If you want to see those properties and check them, you can go to the elevation views, but you need to see sometimes whether it shows in both. So here, exterior and interior both show those height values. In the plan view, you'll see the width value there. So it's good to know where you can see those. And then, yep, so I'll start modelling. So firstly, we've got a essentially a window jamb that will run all the way around the outside. So just like a door has a door jamb, that is the main frame that holds everything. In case of a window, it has a window jamb. And I mean, this is probably pretty correct the way it's drawn, but I'm going to simplify a little bit and take out the extra little bit of the reveal there that's shown on the left and just make it go all the way to the edge. And so I'll measure that distance. Again, this probably isn't right, but it gives us some sort of reference. So to the base there, 78, and then to the side, what is it, 100. So I think 100 mil sounds about right. Looks pretty chunky. So that's what I'm going to do. Maybe at the top, might be a bit less, but I think 100 mil should be good. And we don't need to get the construction perfect. We just need to get this to look like it's basically correct. So in, let's see again in Street View. Okay, so that window, if it's centered within the wall, should look pretty right. Even though in reality it wouldn't be exactly centered. I'm just going to model it as though it's centered. So I'm going to make this wall a bit thicker because at the moment it's only 200 mil. It's probably closer to, well, it'd be 270, but let's make it 300. So we've got a bit of room to work with. So I'm just going to go and edit structure, change it instead of 300. And then I can start drawing. So I'm going to go to the exterior elevation and make an extrusion. And this is a little bit different to what I showed you when you use model in place. Remember, I had to set up a plane before I could even think about drawing from the side. But in a family file, when you go to make an extrusion in a view like this, it's already set up to do that. So that's much easier. And then I'll go to draw a rectangle and click onto the corners of my opening and notice that it gives me the locks. So I can just lock that straight away. How easy is that? Now I want to have a rectangle inside that. So I'm going to just draw a new one. Oh no, so I'll make life a bit easier. I'll use the offset tool and I'll put in my distance 100. Just save me a couple of steps. I've got copy turned off, so I'll turn that on again. And to get all of those lines, you can press tab and offset in one go. Okay, so looking back in AutoCAD now, one little thing there, just to get the look right, the top or the window head would probably be less than the sill and the jambs on the side. Probably not by much, but it'll just make the look of it a bit better, just so you know how we can change it. So let's have a look at the distance there. So that's only about 60 mil. So I'm just going to select that line and I can change that measurement. So now I'm going to dimension all of those things just with an aligned dimension and lock them as I go. If you want to make these adjustable, you can. You can set your own parameters for these things, but we're just making this for this one project, and I don't think it really matters if it's not an adjustable dimension. Okay, so I've got the shape set, well, I was going to say in plan, but really in elevation. I've set the 2D shape of that frame. But how do I know where that's sitting? If I show you in the 3D view, you can see where it's gone. So if you don't set anything, the default is it'll go to the plane that's been set up for you, and that's on the outside. So I went to exterior, that's where it's gone. I want it to go, like I said, to the centre. So I'm going to go to set. And there you've got this plane centre front back. You click OK. And now, I'll show you in the 3D view, notice it's gone to the centre of my wall. So I can work outwards from there. It's easier than trying to get it set back from the face of the wall, basically. Alright, so then I think for now we can just make that basically a square profile, in other words 100 mil deep. So I'm going to make the extrusion start minus 50 and then the extrusion end 50. So it goes 50 mil forward and back from that plane, and there we are. Now when you do things like this, you're still working with parameters, even though I haven't added any new parameters. Remember, I had the width and the height parameter set, and I've used those to model this shape. So you should always do what's called flexing. That means going into your family types and trying some different measurements. So here it's on 2900. I'm going to try 2000. Apply, and it's going with it. So back to 2900. Apply, still going with it. So I'll go to 1500. Apply, again it's going with it. Back to 2350. Apply. And there we are. So it's an easy way just to check and make sure you haven't missed anything. Right, so now the next element we need is the mullions. So you can see that in the AutoCAD as well. So we've got these big, thick mullions, and again, just to keep it even, I'll make them 100 as well. So I'll do these in plan, because, well, I just know it's going to be easier. Alright, so I've got a reference plane there for the centre, but I don't have any reference planes to divide it up into 3, and that's what we really need. So, okay, so I'm going to have to create a reference plane. Sorry, I'm going to have to change the view first. So here you can see I can't see the side of that frame. Any idea why? So what's a plan? What's another way of thinking of a plan view? Yeah, what's it most similar to? A section or an elevation? A section. It's a horizontal section. So it's got a cut plane height, and remember you've got to go to view properties to change that. So remember you can get view properties up by clicking on this arrow here, and then you can go to the floor plan properties, go down to the view range, and then edit that height. So it's on 1000, which is too low, so I'll make that 1500. Right, so now I can see my the window jamb being cut. So what I'm going to do now is make a reference plane that goes through the centre of the window jamb. And you'll see why in a moment, if it's not already clear. So remember, I made the window jambs 100. So I'm going to make this dimension here 50, which essentially gives me a centre line through the window jamb. And again, this is really important when you're setting out the elements that you design, because you need to know how to set out the centres, usually. Now, there's a shortcut to doing this, but I don't want to show you that because it'd be more confusing. So I'll show you this. This is the long way, but it's also probably clearer and easier to understand. So again, I've drawn a reference plane on the other side, and again, we'll make that 50. And again, lock that dimension. Okay, so then if I change the width, again, they're going to move with it. So they're always centred on that window jamb, if that makes sense. So now I can draw some more reference planes. To divide into thirds. So these two reference planes here are going to set the mullions, if that makes sense. So when you're spacing furniture or, you know, clothing hooks or anything that needs to be centred, this is how you've got to set it up, with reference planes usually, and then you base your elements on the references. So now I can draw a dimension from the centre line to the next centre line, the next one, and the next one. Place it to one side, and then equal. So do you know about using the equal spacing? No? Okay, so that's really important. In AutoCAD, how would you set out equal spacings for objects? Have you used divide? You must have used divide in AutoCAD. You haven't used the divide tool? Oh, guys, that's normally one of the first ones we look at when I do AutoCAD. You must have used divide, I'm sure you have. If you did the geometry exercise, which I'm sure you have. They've forgotten, yeah. It's one of the first things you do. You've got to know how to set things out equally. Yeah. Otherwise you're sitting down with a calculator all day and typing in numbers and dividing them up, and then it takes forever just to...
Dividing the line after the dividing a single statement.
Yeah.
Putting a point.
Yeah. That's how you do your spacings. And so here, with Revit, you don't have to, because you've got the equals option. So when you draw a dimension, you can just click equals. It's that easy. And then no matter what happens, if I change that size, they'll go with it. Right, so that's a really useful option. Okay, so I've got my reference planes in. Now I can go and draw more extrusion. So notice I'm doing pretty much all of this with extrusions, as much as I can. And I should be able to do really virtually all of it. In fact, I know I'll be able to do all of it with extrusions. So back to extrusion, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle. And I'm going to draw just by clicking on the edge of my frame and then going to the bottom edge of the frame. So because I touch those two edges, I'll get a locking option for those two. So they're fixed, those two edges, and that's what I want. Now I'm going to draw a dimension from the reference plane to one side and then the other side. Place it above. Then I can choose the line on one side, change the number to, so you guessed it, 50, and then the other one, 50, and then lock. So that's now fixed, and if I finish it, I'll just tick to finish and show you the quick and rough but easy way of setting the height. You can see there it's inside the wall. Not a big deal because I can stretch that using the arrows, as long as I can see the arrows there, to snap to the top edge, lock it, stretch the bottom again and lock it. So that's now locked in with everything else. So now I'll select that post, go back to my plan, copy, snap to my reference plane, bring it across. Notice that it's gone a bit skewy because it doesn't know how it's meant to be locked together, but I can easily go edit extrusion. So there's the dimension that should be keeping it together and it's failing, so I'm going to delete it. Just drag this over this side and repeat what I did before. Draw in the dimension and then just fix those lines and lock it. So the top edge and the bottom edge should be locked, so you can just select them and check that. So tick to finish, and in 3D again I can check the flexing, just trying some different dimensions, so yeah, and they go with it. Alright, so then to make that all look like one thing, you can use join. Choose the outer extrusion and then those inner ones, and then again the outer one and the inner ones. Alright, so now we've got the top rail. So again, I'll just check that height from here. So let's say 1600, sounds good to me. Now I don't need to go and add a new extrusion because I can just edit the one that's already there. So I'm going to go to the exterior view and then edit extrusion, and I'll just do it very quickly with the line there selected. I can go to copy, bring that up, 1600, copy it again, 100, and then use split. So use this method of split and trim. So split the lines either side and then trim, joined all together. Now if you wanted to, you could add a parameter in so that that height could be adjustable, but again we're just doing this as a one-off almost, so I'm going to just draw a dimension in there and lock it. So it's always 1600. And it's telling me I've got circular references. So resolve, there we go. If you get that resolve option, that's usually going to fix things. Okay, so we've got the outer frame done, and then the sash elements will take less time because we can do them based on what's already been made. So the upper sash is probably the easiest. You've got the, again, using the measure tool, yeah, 40 mils pretty typical, sometimes 50. You can see the people who drew this weren't that fussy, so I'm going to say 40 because it'll just look a bit nicer. And then in exterior view, it's going to go to, again, extrusion, draw rectangles, lock each side, and set the depth to less than what we've got there. So maybe I'll make it 60 in total, which would mean minus 30 and then 30, so that it altogether is 60 mil either side of that centre line. Okay, so that's obviously a solid panel, just wanted to show you that. And to put a hole in an extrusion, remember, just like before, when I go to edit extrusion, I can offset that rectangle using my 40 mil measurement inwards. Okay, so I won't go through all the locking, but if you want to make sure it's adjustable, you'd have to put in dimensions and lock them. But just to save time, I'll leave that for now, so you don't have to watch me do all of that. And I'll go right ahead and put the glass in. So I'm just going to draw another extrusion inside that with another rectangle. Okay, so again, locking each side as you go is always good if you know that it's going to be needed at some point. And how thick would glass be in real life? Yeah, 10 mil. It's pretty close, less than 10 actually most of the time. So yeah, it's 6 point something, 7 point something for the usual measurements, up to 10 point something. I always forget the decimal, but it's usually a decimal. But to show on your drawings, you probably want to make it 20 mil, just so that you can see it in section. So 20 mil is not a bad thickness. So minus 10 and then 10. Okay, so tick to finish, and in 3D, that's the top light done. So the sashes are very similar. There's just one really important difference, and that is that the sashes are offset. That one was centered, but the sashes are either side of the center line. And this may, if you haven't already thought about how double hung windows go together, this will probably help you with that too. So I'm going to draw in a reference plane that is going to be centered between the top and the bottom of my opening there. Okay, so using the equal option there, I can do that. So I'll go and draw a new extrusion now. So it's all just extrusions. This is another rectangle that I will draw just below the reference plane actually. So now I'm going to select that, and you can see it's not giving me a dimension. I'll just maybe undo that and show you a step I missed actually. I might draw that rectangle again. So I was focusing so much on that one, I forgot to lock these. I want to lock those three. Okay, so do you want to be brave and guess if this is the top sash, how far below, if I've got a 40 mil frame or sash thickness, how far below that centre line would this line be if this is the outside of my sash? Does someone say 20? Yes, spot on. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So 20 mil below. That's right. Half your thickness. Okay, so I want to make that 20, but it's not giving me a dimension for that. So do you know how to make it give you a dimension? Probably the most obvious thing you can think of. Yeah, well you can actually, so you could adjust these dimensions. What about just drawing in a dimension? If you draw a dimension, then you've got one. So draw in a dimension, and then now if I select that line, I can make that 20. Right, so I could lock it if I want to, and again I would be putting some more constraints in here, but for now I'll just do it very quickly. Offset 40 and use tab to get all of those lines. So that's my top sash, and I'm going to make the extrusion start here 0, and then the extrusion end 20. So notice how before it was minus 10 and 10, so it was centered, but this time it'll be to one side, so it's going to be positive 20. So I'll finish that. Right, and then I'm going to just copy that down. Oops, sorry, copying it from the bottom down to here. So they'll overlap. Right, but if I make that minus 20, the extrusion end, it's going to go backwards. Now, unfortunately, let's have a look at this in plan. I don't know which way is the outside and which way is the inside until I look at it. And, of course, it's the other way. So let's have a look at that. And I'm thinking about glass. Of course, I should be thinking about the frame. So it's going to be more than 20. It's going to be let's see what we've got here, because I've been using round measurements. We've got 50, 20, I think I can only do 35. So let's fix this. Okay, so it's back to front, but again, easy to fix. So I'm going to make that distance there minus 35, and then the bottom one positive 35. So does that make sense now? You can see how we've got the two sashes going either side of the centre line. Oh yeah, sure. No. Okay, so now I put the glass in. The glass should be easy now. So again, remember this one's going to minus 35. So if I go to the exterior view and make a new extrusion, okay, so doing a bit of mental arithmetic. If it's, well, I'll just type it in so you can see. So it's minus 35. So I want it to be, well, I said 20, but that's going to be more difficult than if I maybe just make it 15. So I want it to be 15 mil thick. So that means I've got 20 left over. Okay, so I'm going to make it go from minus 10 to minus 25. If that makes sense. So that should leave me 15 mil thick glass. Okay. So again, tick's finish, and now I can just copy that down and make those numbers positive. So positive 25 and positive 10. So looking into 3D, nearly done. So I'm just going to copy those across, set the materials, and that window is done. And so it's taken about half an hour, so you should be able to get it done in that time. And, well, maybe a little bit longer, but you should be able to easily do this. So I'm just going to copy that across using the copy tool and tick multiple. I haven't set materials yet, but I'll show you how easy that will be, because you'll often forget to do that until the end. Okay, so I've done my modelling, pretty close to the real thing. If you want to, you can put those little extra parts on the sash later, but worry about that then. So yeah, it's good enough as it is. So, so I'm going to select that with a window, and then you can see here, if I go to that drop down, you've got this other option. It's one of these things. They should have a category for solids, but they just don't. So you've got to go to other to find your solids. And then I'm going to set a material. Okay, so I'm nearly done. Won't be too much longer, but just may as well finish this. And so here I'm going to go to one of these preset simple materials. So let's get an AEC. Here we go, paint, that's what I'm after, and there we are. So that's like a default material, and then I'm going to associate a parameter, so I can change this if I need to in the project. Add parameter, and we'll call it window frame. So that's set everything. Now I'm going to set the glass, obviously, to be a different material. So just using control, I'm going to select those solids, and then you can see here it has the associate parameter option. I'm just going to click there, add a new parameter, and call this window glass. Now you can see there I can't change the material here in properties anymore because I've assigned a parameter. but I can go to family types and change it there. So there it is, window glass, browse, there's glass, and it's done. So I'm going to save that, and I'll let you try and make it first, and then we'll see. Yeah, I'm recording it all. Yeah. Okay, but you'll see once I load this into the project, having done all that painful setting up, now everything should be much, much easier. So I can just go and place this. And of course you've got it on every level, so once you get it right on this level, this wall probably needs to come down a little bit. And then, do you know the easy way to copy things onto new levels? Okay, I'll show you that just to finish up. So I'm going to select the window. Maybe I'll put in one of them down here as well. So I'll probably fine-tune my piers or something, or maybe I need to change the width of the windows a little bit, but that should be an option because of the way I've set it up. So let's go back to here and copy another couple. But maybe here I'll just centre that so it looks a bit better, and then copy another couple. So actually let's look at the real building and see what's happening there. Oh yeah, so they do have extra brickwork either side of the piers there, so that's totally fine. So copy one more and just by eye centre it for now. So I'm going to select them all with Control, copy to clipboard, and then under the paste menu go to Align to Selected Levels, choose levels 1 and 2, click OK. There we go. Now some of the heights must be out. Let's have a look at the image there. Yes, I think my levels need to be adjusted. And I'll get those from the other drawing, but maybe for now the roof and the parapet can come up and they won't affect the windows anyway. But otherwise, there we are. So it should be fairly easy to get those duplicated once you get them right on one level. So if you haven't used that option, really useful. And so again, here you can do the same thing for that extra window. And just to show you one more time, so copy that window down, because you don't have it on the ground floor, but you do have it, I think, on the first floor. Okay, so again, copy to clipboard, go to the arrow under paste, align to selected levels, and choose the level you want it to go to. So there it is on the next level. There it is again. That easy.